Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for March 3rd. March 3rd is the 62nd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, unless it's a leap year, and then it's the 63rd day of the year. There are 303 days remaining to the end of the year. Yesterday's word was Yahoo, which originated from Jonathan Swift's book Gulliver's Travels. Today we have another word from Gulliver's Travels, but this one hasn't come into quite as wide a usage as Yahoo has. Today's word is Struldbrug. Struldbrug. That's a mouthful of word, isn't it? Struldbrug is a noun that means someone very old and decrepit. This comes to us, as I mentioned, from Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, where Struldbrugs were people from the land of Lugnag. Struldbrugs grew old and decrepit, but they did not die. They didn't die, and they continued to age. At the age of 80, Struldbrugs would be declared legally dead and would continue to live on a small pension from the state. Struldbrug. And with that, progressing into the 1800s, contention over the issue of slavery had come to be quite a thing. Many felt, and I believe rightly so, that slave labor was not a good thing and wished to see it done away with. If you need work done, for example, find someone who can or will do the job and pay them for their work. But those who had come to depend on slave labor were loath to give it up. Since both sides felt very strongly about it, the issues around slavery became a focal point, a hot-button issue for argument and contention. With this background, the Missouri Territory had applied for statehood. One of the northern representatives submitted some amendments to that request with an eye to restricting slavery in that soon-to-be new state. Southern representatives believed slavery was a state issue, and the Senate was split right down the middle. If Missouri was allowed to be admitted as a slave state, it would give the South an advantage in the slavery question. Along about that time, Maine also petitioned for statehood as what was called a free soil state, and the two bills were quickly linked, with Maine's admission as a free soil state a condition for Missouri entering the Union as a slave state. Matters only became more complex from there. What they finally came upon, though, was the Missouri Compromise. The slavery would be permitted in Missouri and the Arkansas Territory, but prohibited in the unorganized territory of the Great Plains, which was nearly as big and square mile size as the then existing United States. The Missouri Compromise was passed on March 3rd, 1820. This is the birthday of baseball great John Montgomery Ward, born March 3rd, 1860. When I saw his name, I thought of the former department store, now online ordering store, Montgomery Ward, and while this Mr. Ward did try his hand as a traveling salesman, that didn't work out for him, and he went back home, rediscovered baseball. He played for several teams and then managed for actually the same teams he'd played for. He pitched the second perfect game in baseball history. A perfect game is, as I like to say it, 3 up, 3 down, 9-inning no-hitter. Pretty remarkable feat. The first perfect game was pitched in 1880, and in the following 132 years through the 2012 season, only 23 perfect games have been pitched. John Montgomery Ward lived to the age of 65 and was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1964 by the Veterans Committee. Oil was discovered in Saudi Arabia on March 3, 1938. NASA launched Apollo 9 to test the lunar module on March 3, 1969. You might remember that yesterday we talked about the round-the-world flight that landed in Fort Worth in 1949. Well, on March 3, 2005, a man named Steve Fossett became the first person to fly an airplane nonstop around the world solo without refueling. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this if you found it interesting or informative. If you enjoyed this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link in the description. That description lives on YouTube. So for the other channels, I'll put a link to my blogger page that will have all those links. My blog is called No Really. And you can find me also on Rumble, Parler, BitChute, and Getter. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.